The first time I saw him was through my camera lens. I was exhausted, my fingers cramping after 8 straight hours photographing entitled brides at the Bellevue Hotel. The wedding season in Boston had been brutal this year. Too many couples making up for lost time after the pandemic. Too few photographers willing to work for what these venues paid, but rent was due, and beggars couldn't afford to be choosers. "Just one more group shot by the fountain," I called out, forcing enthusiasm into my voice as the bridal party groaned. My feet throbbed inside my sensible black flats, professional enough to blend into the background, comfortable enough to stand in all day. That was me. Emma Wells, the invisible woman, designed to capture others' special moments while having none of her own. That's when I noticed him. He wasn't part of the wedding. He stood at the edge of the marble terrace, partially obscured by one of the hotel's ornate columns. Dark suit, perfectly tailored, not off the rack like the groomsmen's rentals. He was watching the proceedings with detached interest, a crystal tumbler of amber liquid held loosely between long fingers. Something about the way he stood, shoulders back, chin slightly raised, screamed money and power. I lowered my camera, feeling suddenly self-conscious about my rumpled blouse and the smudge of mascara I'd discovered under my eye during a bathroom break. His gaze drifted from the wedding party to me, and I quickly looked away, pretending to adjust my camera settings. "All right, everyone together now?" I called, my voice higher than usual. "Big smiles." I took the shots mechanically, hyper-aware of the man's presence. When I dared to look again, he was gone, and I felt a strange mixture of relief and disappointment. 3 hours later, I was sitting alone at the hotel bar, treating myself to one overpriced cocktail before heading home to my cramped apartment. My equipment bag rested heavily against my leg, and I scrolled through the day's shots on my camera display. Are they any good? The voice was deep and smooth, with the faintest hint of an accent I couldn't place. I looked up, and my heart stuttered. It was him, much closer now, the sharp lines of his face illuminated by the bar's moody lighting, dark hair swept back from a strong forehead, eyes the color of steel, jaw that could have been carved from marble. He smelled expensive. Not cologne exactly, but the unmistakable scent of someone who wore only the finest things. Excuse me?" I managed, hating how breathy my voice sounded. "The photographs." He nodded toward my camera. "Are they any good?" "Oh, yes, I think so." I turned the display toward him without thinking, then immediately regretted it. These were my client's private moments. He leaned closer, not touching the camera but peering at the small screen. His proximity sent a wave of heat through me. I noticed the driver's license-sized scar near his temple, partially hidden by his hairline, and the way his eyes narrowed slightly as he focused. "You have an eye," he said finally, straightening up. "You capture vulnerability." Something in his tone made me shiver. I closed the camera display and took a sip of my drink to hide my reaction. "I'm Luca," he said, not offering a hand or a last name, just Luca, as if that was all I needed to know. "Emma," I replied. "Emma Wells." "Emma." He said my name like he was tasting it. "You're the wedding photographer?" "Among other things." I felt defensive suddenly. "I do portrait work, some commercial stuff, gallery exhibitions when I can get them." "Interesting." He signaled the bartender, who appeared instantaneously. "Another of whatever the lady is having. Anna McAllen, 25, neat." "Oh, I wasn't." "Please." It wasn't really a request. Consider it appreciation for your art. The bartender placed our drinks before us with remarkable speed. I noticed he seemed unusually deferential toward Luca. "Are you a photographer too?" I asked, trying to steer the conversation into safer waters. He smiled, just barely, one corner of his mouth lifting. "No. I collect things of beauty, but I don't create them." "And what do you do, besides collect beautiful things?" "I solve problems." He took a sip of his whiskey. "Make things happen. Remove obstacles." "That's vague." "Is it?" Those gray eyes fixed on me, amused. "What if I told you I'm in waste management?" I laughed, then stopped when his expression didn't change. "Sorry, you just don't look like someone who manages garbage." "No? What do I look like? I studied him, emboldened by alcohol and the strange intimacy of the bar. Someone important. Someone dangerous. His eyebrow quirked up. Dangerous? Why would you say that? The way everyone looks at you. The way the bartender practically bowed when you ordered. The way you, I gestured vaguely, exist in space, like you own it. Perceptive. He sipped his drink again. You see things others don't. That's why you're good with that. He nodded toward my camera. Maybe I'm just paranoid. No. The word was firm, almost stern. Don't diminish yourself, Emma Wells. I felt heat rise to my cheeks. Who was this man to tell me how to talk about myself? Are you in town for the wedding? I asked, changing the subject. No, business. I'm rarely in Boston these days. He looked around the bar as if assessing it. I grew up not far from here. Really? Where? North End. He gave me a look that suggested I'd be familiar with the area. Oh. The North End was Boston's Little Italy, historically home to Italian immigrants, and, if rumors were to be believed, the Italian mob. But that was decades ago. Now it was all trendy restaurants and overpriced condos. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then slid it back into his pocket. Do you live nearby, Emma? Warning bells sounded in my head. No matter how handsome he was, you didn't tell strange men where you lived. Not really, I lied. Shame. He finished his drink. I'm in town for a few days. I could use a photographer. For what? I asked, professionally intrigued despite myself. I'm looking to acquire some property. Need documentation. Maybe some promotional material. It sounded legitimate enough, and commercial real estate photography paid well. Much better than weddings. I have a card, I said, reaching for my bag. As I bent down, my elbow caught my cocktail glass, sending it crashing to the floor. Shit! I'm so sorry. I scrambled to pick up the larger pieces of glass, mortified. A hotel employee rushed over with a towel and dustpan. I've got it, miss. Please don't cut yourself. I'm so sorry, I repeated, wanting to disappear. I could feel Luca watching me, and when I finally dared to look up at him, his expression was unreadable. Accidents happen, he said mildly, but I sensed something else behind his words. I fished out a business card and handed it to him, noticing a small cut on my fingertip. A drop of blood smeared the corner of the card as I passed it to him. He looked at the bloodstain, then at me. Something flickering in his eyes, he pocketed the card without looking at it. I'll be in touch. With that, he stood, left more than enough cash on the bar to cover our drinks and the broken glass, and walked away. A moment later, I noticed a large man in a dark suit materialize from a corner table and follow him out. Security? Bodyguard? I gathered my things, embarrassed and intrigued in equal measure. Convinced I'd never hear from the mysterious Luca again. I was wrong. The call came at 7:30 the next morning. Unknown number. Emma Wells. I answered groggily, still half asleep. Emma. Luca. From last night. His voice was as commanding over the phone as it had been in person. I'd like to hire you today. Are you available? I sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. Today, I'll make it worth your while. $5,000 for the day. My breath caught. $5,000 was more than I made in a month of weddings and portrait sessions. What exactly would you need photographed? I asked, trying to sound professional rather than desperate. A property in Beacon Hill, interior and exterior shots. Some candids of me touring the space for promotional materials. He paused. Is that acceptable? It sounded too good to be true, which usually meant it was, but I thought of my mounting credit card debt, the rent increase my landlord had just announced, the repair bill for my aging car. Yes, that's acceptable. Good. A car will pick you up at 9. Wait, I stopped, realizing I'd never told him where I lived. Is there a problem? How do you know where I live? I asked, my voice tight. Your website lists your studio address. I assumed that's where you'd be. My shoulders relaxed slightly. My studio was indeed listed on my website. A small space I rented in a converted factory building where I did portrait sessions. I rarely worked from there, but it was a reasonable assumption. Right. I'll be at the studio at 9. Until then. He hung up without saying goodbye. I rushed through my morning routine, trying to look professional, but not like I'd tried too hard. I chose a simple black dress that could pass for business attire, paired with comfortable ankle boots. I packed my best camera equipment, charged batteries, and formatted fresh memory cards. At precisely 9:00 a.m., a sleek black Audi with tinted windows pulled up outside my studio. The driver, a broad-shouldered man with close-cropped hair and an earpiece, opened the rear door without a word. To my surprise, Luca wasn't inside. I slid into the empty back seat, my equipment bag beside me. "Mr. Ricci will meet you at the property," the driver said, closing my door. His accent was Eastern European, his manner efficient and impersonal. Mr. Ricci. So that was Luca's last name, Italian, as I'd guessed. We drove in silence through Boston's morning traffic. I tried to focus on the mental checklist of shots I'd need. Exteriors from multiple angles, key interior features, architectural details. But my thoughts kept drifting to Luca Ricci's intense gaze and the way he'd said my name. The car stopped in front of a magnificent brownstone on one of Beacon Hill's most exclusive streets. These homes sold for millions, their owners old Boston money or tech billionaires. The driver opened my door. "Mr. Ricci is inside. Knock 3 times. I climbed the immaculate stone steps, heart pounding as I knocked as instructed. The door opened immediately, revealing Luca in another impeccable suit, this one navy blue against a crisp white shirt. No tie, the top button undone. I tried not to stare at the hollow of his throat. "Emma, right on time." He stepped aside to let me enter. "Welcome." The foyer was breathtaking, soaring ceilings, marble floors, a chandelier that must have cost more than my entire apartment building. My photographer's eye immediately began cataloging the play of light, the architectural details. "This is incredible," I managed. "Yes." He was watching me, not the house. "The current owners are in Europe. We have full access." "We?" As if on cue, 2 men appeared from different doorways. One was the driver who'd brought me. The other was older, with salt and pepper hair and a tailored suit nearly as nice as Luca's. "My associates," Luca said dismissively. "They'll stay out of your way." I nodded, setting down my bag and unpacking my camera. "So, is this a personal purchase, or for business?" "Both." He placed his hands in his pockets, still watching me. "I need somewhere suitable when I'm in Boston. It's quite a place for an occasional visit." His lips quirked. "I may be spending more time here than anticipated." Something about the way he said it made me look up from my camera. He was staring at me with an intensity that made my skin flush. I cleared my throat. "I'll start with the exteriors while the light is good." I spent the next hour photographing the brownstone's facade, the private garden, the ornate details of the entryway. When I came back inside, the older man was speaking rapidly to Luca in Italian. They fell silent when I entered. "Everything all right?" I asked. "Fine." Luca's voice was clipped. "Marco has an overactive imagination." Marco glanced between us, then gave a slight bow and retreated to another room. "Let me show you the main parlor," Luca said, his hand hovering near the small of my back without actually touching me. Even that phantom contact sent electricity through me. The day proceeded with me photographing each spectacular room while Luca explained its features. Occasionally, he would position himself in frame, leaning against a marble fireplace or gazing out a floor-to-ceiling window, and I would capture him as naturally as possible. He was photogenic in a dangerous way, too intense, too perfect. Through my lens, I caught micro-expressions that were gone in an instant. Calculation, amusement, something darker when his phone buzzed with messages he quickly dismissed. By late afternoon, we had covered most of the house. My memory cards were filled with hundreds of shots, far more than he'd need. "Just the master suite left," Luca said, leading me up the grand staircase to the top floor. I hesitated at the threshold. The bedroom was massive, dominated by a king-sized bed with an ornate headboard. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and a fireplace large enough to stand in took up one wall. "Problem?" Luca asked, noticing my pause. "No, it's just quite a room." He smiled, a real one this time, transforming his severe features. "Indeed. The light in here is exceptional." He was right. The golden late-afternoon sun poured through the windows, casting everything in a warm glow. I began shooting, trying to capture the grandeur without making it feel cold or impersonal. "You should be in some of these," I said without thinking, "for scale." "Where would you like me?" I swallowed hard. "By the window, perhaps." Looking out over the city, he positioned himself as directed, hands in pockets, his profile sharp against the light. I took several shots, then reviewed them on my camera display. "May I see?" he asked, moving toward me. I handed him the camera, our fingers brushing. He studied the image, his expression unreadable. "You've made me look contemplative," he said finally. "Is that not accurate?" His eyes met mine. "More than you know." He returned the camera, then checked his watch. "It's getting late. You must be hungry." Now that he mentioned it, I realized I'd worked through lunch, too focused on the shoot to notice. "A little," I admitted. "I've had dinner arranged. If you'd care to join me." It wasn't really a question, and I found myself nodding before I'd fully considered the implications of dining alone with this increasingly enigmatic man. He led me down to the kitchen, a chef's dream of stainless steel and marble, where an array of covered dishes had been set out. There was no sign of whoever had delivered the food. "Hope you don't mind Italian," Luca said, removing covers to reveal risotto, grilled vegetables, and sea bass that smelled divine. "Not at all." My stomach growled embarrassingly. He poured 2 glasses of white wine, and we sat at the kitchen island, the formality of our professional relationship slowly dissolving as we ate. "So," I said, gathering courage with each sip of excellent wine. "Waste management. Really?" He looked amused. "You don't believe me?" "I think there's more to it than that." "There's more to everything than meets the eye, Emma." He twirled his wine glass. "Even you." "Me? I'm an open book. Struggling photographer, barely making rent, dreams bigger than my bank account. And yet..." His eyes narrowed slightly. "You see things. You notice details. You catch moments others miss." I shrugged uncomfortably. "That's just the job." "No, it's innate. You can't teach that kind of perception." The intensity of his gaze made me look away. I noticed a small framed photograph on a side table, the only personal item in the otherwise staged house. "Is that yours?" I asked, nodding toward it. Something flickered across his face. "Yes, the only thing I've brought so far. May I?" I stood, moving toward the photograph. He hesitated, then nodded once. It was a simple family portrait, a woman with dark hair holding a small boy, perhaps 3 or 4 years old. The woman's face was partially turned away from the camera, but there was something haunted in her expression. The boy looked solemn, his eyes unnervingly familiar. "Is this you?" I asked softly. "Yes, and my mother. She's beautiful." "She was," he said, and the past tense hung in the air between us. I returned to my seat, feeling I'd glimpsed something I wasn't supposed to see. "I should be going," I said, suddenly uncomfortable with the intimacy. "I have all the shots you need, of course." He stood immediately. "Marco will drive you home. I'll transfer the payment tonight. Thank you." I began packing my equipment, my hands less steady than they should have been. As I zipped up my bag, Luca placed a business card on the counter. Unlike my simple card with just a name and contact information, his was heavy stock, with just a phone number and the letter R embossed in dark ink. "If you need anything," he said. "Anything at all." I picked up the card, our fingers brushing again. "I'm not sure what I would need from you." "You'd be surprised." His voice had dropped lower. "You're very talented, Emma, but talent only gets you so far in this city. Sometimes you need connections." "Are you offering me connections, Mr. Ricci?" His eyes darkened at my use of his surname. "Among other things." I should have been offended by the implication. Instead, I felt a dangerous thrill. "Thank you for the opportunity," I said formally, trying to reclaim professional distance. "The pleasure was mine." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers grazed my cheek, and I forgot to breathe. "Though I should warn you, Emma Wells." "Warn me?" His eyes held mine as he leaned closer, his voice dropping to little more than a whisper. You don't flirt with men like me." His words hung in the air between us, a warning and a promise wrapped in 5 simple words. You don't flirt with men like me. I started to protest, then stopped myself. Had I been flirting? The heat in my cheeks suggested I knew the answer. Weren't you? His eyes never left mine, searching for something I wasn't sure I wanted him to find. I squared my shoulders. I was being friendly, professional, that's all. Of course. He stepped back, breaking the spell. "Marco will see you home." Marco materialized as if summoned by his name alone. He gestured toward the door, his expression neutral but somehow intimidating. "Good night, Emma." Luca's voice followed me as I walked away. "I'll be in touch about the photographs." The drive back to my apartment was silent. Marco never spoke, never met my eyes in the rearview mirror. I clutched my equipment bag like a shield, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. When we pulled up to my building, my actual apartment building, not my studio, I felt a chill. "How did you know where I live?" I asked, my voice tight. Marco turned, his first acknowledgement of my existence beyond opening doors. Mr. Ricci knows what he needs to know. I climbed out quickly, not waiting for him to open my door. As I fumbled with my keys at the building entrance, I glanced back. The Audi remained at the curb, Marco watching to ensure I got inside safely, or perhaps to confirm my address for future reference. Inside my apartment, I locked the deadbolt and chain, then stood in the darkness, my heart pounding. My phone buzzed with a notification. A banking alert. $5,000 had been deposited into my account. The transaction description simply read, "R Enterprises." I slumped onto my couch, my mind racing. Who exactly was Luca Ricci? What did he really do? And why did I feel both terrified and thrilled by whatever was happening between us? I woke the next morning to another notification. An email from an address I didn't recognize, containing only an encrypted link and a password. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity won out. The link led to a secure server where I could upload the photographs from yesterday's shoot. Professionalism taking over, I spent the morning selecting and editing the best shots. The house was magnificent, and despite my complicated feelings about its potential owner, I'd done some of my best work. I created 2 galleries, one of just the property, another including the photos with Luca in them. As I studied these images on my monitor, I noticed details I'd missed while shooting, the way his posture changed subtly when his phone buzzed, a tattoo peeking from beneath his shirt cuff when he reached for a door handle, the calculating look that crossed his face when he thought I wasn't watching. Who was this man? I uploaded both galleries and sent a confirmation email to the address provided. Within minutes, my phone rang. "The photographs are excellent," Luca's voice without preamble. "Particularly the ones with me in them." "Thank you," I said, professional pride momentarily outweighing my unease. "I wasn't sure what you'd need them for. I have my uses." A pause. "Are you free tonight?" My pulse quickened. "For what, exactly?" "Dinner. A proper restaurant, not takeout in an empty house." I should have said no. Every instinct told me to stay away from Luca Ricci and whatever world he inhabited. Instead, I heard myself say, "What time?" 8. Wear something nice." He hung up before I could respond. The rest of the day passed in a blur of anxiety and anticipation. I tried to work on other client projects, but my thoughts kept drifting back to steel gray eyes and that whispered warning. By 7, I was trying on the 3rd outfit, my bedroom a disaster of discarded options. I finally settled on a black dress I'd bought for gallery openings. Simple but elegant, with a neckline that suggested rather than revealed. I was applying lipstick when the buzzer rang. Marco again. No sign of Luca in the car. "Where are we going?" I asked as we pulled away from my building. Sorellina. He offered no further explanation. Sorellina was one of Boston's most exclusive Italian restaurants. I'd walked past it many times but never even considered going inside. The kind of place where if you had to ask the price, you couldn't afford it. Luca was waiting at a corner table, rising as the maitre d' led me through the dining room. Conversations paused as I passed. I felt eyes following me, assessing who I might be to warrant such placement. "Emma?" He took my hand, brushing his lips against my knuckles. "You look beautiful." "Thank you." I slipped into the seat a waiter held for me. This place is intimidating. It shouldn't be. Not for you. He signaled subtly, and a bottle of wine appeared, presented for his approval before being poured. I glanced around the restaurant. Do you come here often? When I'm in Boston. The owner is from my hometown. As if summoned by mention, an older man in an expensive suit approached our table. He clasped Luca's shoulder with familiar affection, but I didn't miss the deference in his manner. Luca, mio figlio, they exchanged rapid Italian, the man's eyes occasionally darting to me with undisguised curiosity. Finally, Luca gestured toward me. Emma, this is Antonio Valenti, an old family friend. Antonio took my hand, his grip surprisingly strong for a man his age. Any friend of Luca's is family here. Your dinner is my pleasure tonight. He disappeared before I could thank him, barking orders at servers as he went. Family friend? I asked once we were alone. Of sorts. Luca sipped his wine. Antonio knew my father. They were in business together. What kind of business? His eyes glinted. Imports, primarily, from Italy. I had the distinct feeling we were having two different conversations. The one with words, and another with all that remained unspoken. And now you're in the same business? I pressed. I've expanded our interests. He studied me. You ask a lot of questions, Emma. Professional hazard. Photographers are observers by nature. Careful what you observe. His tone was light, but something in his eyes wasn't. Some things once seen can't be unseen. Before I could respond, plates of food began arriving, dishes I hadn't ordered, specialties not on the menu, each more delicious than the last. As we ate, the conversation shifted to safer topics. He asked about my photography, seeming genuinely interested in how I'd found my way to the profession. I told him about growing up in a small town in western Massachusetts, about the second-hand camera that had changed my life in high school, about the scholarship to art school that had brought me to Boston. And your family? He asked. They're still in... what was it? Greenfield. Just my mom now. Dad left when I was 12. I pushed a piece of ravioli around my plate. We don't really talk much. Why not? I shrugged. She wanted a different life for me, practical, secure. She thinks I'm wasting my talent on wedding photos and struggling to pay rent. She's right about the last part. His directness startled me. You're too good for wedding photos, Emma. Well, we can't all buy brownstones in Beacon Hill on a whim. The words came out sharper than intended. Instead of taking offense, he seemed pleased by my spark. No, but some of us can help others get what they deserve. And what do I deserve in your estimation? He leaned forward, his voice dropping. Recognition, success, the freedom to create without worrying about rent or bills or pleasing mediocre clients. His words touched a nerve, articulating dreams I barely admitted to myself. And you can provide that? I asked skeptically. I know people. Galleries, magazines, collectors. One phone call from me. Why would you do that? I interrupted. You barely know me. I know enough. His eyes held mine. I know talent when I see it. I know value. And what would you want in return? I wasn't naive enough to believe such offers came without strings. A small smile played at his lips. For now, your company. The rest will develop naturally. The rest. Those two words contained multitudes of possibility, both exhilarating and terrifying. Dessert arrived, interrupting the moment. A delicate panna cotta I barely tasted, distracted by the weight of his gaze and the implications of his offer. As we left the restaurant, Antonio appeared again, embracing Luca and kissing my cheeks as if I were a longtime friend. Outside, the night air was cool against my flushed skin. A walk? Luca suggested, nodding to Marco, who retreated to the car but remained watching. We strolled along the waterfront, the city lights reflecting on the harbor. He didn't touch me, but I felt his presence like a physical thing, his body heat radiating in the narrow space between us. You never actually told me what you do, I said finally. Besides solve problems and remove obstacles? He stopped, turning to face me. The breeze ruffled his perfect hair, making him look momentarily more human. Would it matter if I did? He asked. Would you believe me? Try me. He studied me for a long moment. My family has interests in various enterprises. Import-export, yes, but also construction, real estate, certain entertainment venues. I oversee these interests. And waste management, I added with a slight smile. That too. His expression remained serious. Some would call it organized crime. I prefer to think of it as an alternative business structure. My smile faltered. He couldn't possibly be saying what I thought he was saying. You're joking, I said, searching his face for signs of teasing. I rarely joke, Emma, especially about business. A chill that had nothing to do with the breeze ran through me. I took an involuntary step back. You're afraid now, he observed. That's wise. I should go home, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Of course. He signaled to Marco, who brought the car around with impossible speed. I've enjoyed our evening. As Marco opened the car door for me, Luca caught my wrist. His touch was gentle but firm, impossible to break without struggle. Think about my offer, he said quietly. Your talent deserves recognition. That part wasn't a lie. I pulled my arm free, sliding into the back seat without responding. As we pulled away, I watched him through the tinted window, standing perfectly still, watching the car until we turned the corner. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed in my bed, replaying Luca's words. Some would call it organized crime. I prefer to think of it as an alternative business structure. Had he really just admitted to being what? A mobster? A mafia boss? It seemed absurd, like something from a movie, not real life. Not my life. Yet the evidence was there, the deference everyone showed him, the bodyguards, the way Antonio had treated him like royalty, the casual mention of his North End roots. I'd brushed against something dangerous, and instead of running, I'd leaned into it. My phone buzzed at 6:30 a.m. A text from an unknown number, the Morrison Gallery, 2 p.m. They're expecting you. I stared at the screen. The Morrison Gallery was one of Boston's most prestigious contemporary art spaces. I'd tried to get them to look at my portfolio 3 times. They hadn't even responded to my emails. Before I could talk myself out of it, I texted back, "What is this?" The reply came instantly, an opportunity. Take it or don't. Your choice. I didn't need to ask who it was from. Despite my misgivings, at 1:45 p.m., I found myself standing outside the Morrison, clutching my portfolio. I dressed carefully, professional but creative, trying to look like I belonged there. The gallery director, Catherine Morrison herself, greeted me by name as I entered. Ms. Wells, right on time. She was exactly as I'd imagined from articles I'd read, elegant, intimidating, with the kind of practiced smile that revealed nothing. Thank you for seeing me, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm not sure what you're expecting. Let's see your work first, shall we? She led me to a private viewing room, gesturing for me to open my portfolio. For the next hour, Catherine examined my photographs with an expert's eye, asking incisive questions about my process, my influences, my vision. It was the most serious artistic consideration my work had ever received. You have a remarkable eye for vulnerability, she said finally, echoing Luca's words from our first meeting. There's something almost invasive about your portraits, as if you've captured something the subject didn't intend to reveal. Is that good or bad? I asked. It's compelling. She closed my portfolio. We have an opening in our fall showcase for emerging artists. 3 of your series would fit well with our theme of exposed. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. You want to show my work? Yes. We'll need more pieces, of course. At least 20 new photographs in the same vein as these. She gestured to a series of street portraits I'd taken, ordinary people caught in moments of unexpected emotion. Can you deliver that in 2 months? Absolutely, I said, not letting myself think about how I'd manage it alongside my regular work. Excellent. She stood, signaling our meeting was over. My assistant will email you the details. As she walked me to the door, I couldn't contain my curiosity. May I ask, how did you hear about my work? Catherine's expression shifted subtly. A valued collector mentioned you. Someone whose taste I trust implicitly. Luca Ricci? I ventured. Something like wariness crossed her face. Mr. Ricci has an exceptional eye for emerging talent. If he's taken an interest in your work, you should consider yourself fortunate. Her tone suggested the conversation was over, but I persisted. Do you know him well? Well enough to respect his reach. She gave me a measured look, and well enough to offer some advice, Ms. Wells. Deliver exceptional work, express appropriate gratitude, and don't ask questions like that again. The warning couldn't have been clearer if she'd posted it on the gallery wall. I left in a daze, equal parts elated and disturbed. By the time I reached the street, my phone was buzzing with an incoming call. Unknown number. Hello? Did you take the opportunity? Luca's voice, smooth and confident. Yes, thank you. The words felt inadequate. How did you? I told you. I know people. A pause. Are you free tonight? My instincts screamed caution, but something stronger, ambition, curiosity, attraction, drowned them out. Yes. Good. There's an opening at the atelier. Contemporary photography. Research for your upcoming show. The way he said it, your upcoming show, sent a thrill through me despite my reservations. I'll send a car at 8. He hung up before I could respond. It was becoming a pattern. This time when Marco arrived, Luca was in the back seat. He wore a charcoal suit that made his eyes look like quicksilver, dangerous and fluid. When I slid in beside him, he took my hand and brushed his lips across my knuckles, his eyes never leaving mine. You look lovely, he said. Success agrees with you. I pulled my hand away, determined to maintain some boundary. I haven't succeeded at anything yet, but you will. His certainty was unnerving. Catherine doesn't waste time on mediocrity. Did you threaten her? The question escaped before I could stop it. Instead of anger, his expression showed amusement. Is that what you think of me? I don't know what to think of you. Good. He settled back, studying me. Certainty is boring. Danger is much more stimulating. The gallery was crowded, filled with Boston's art elite and social climbers pretending to understand the stark black and white photographs that lined the walls. The moment we entered, I felt the shift. Conversations pausing, heads turning, eyes following us. No, not us, him. Luca moved through the space with casual confidence, his hand occasionally brushing the small of my back as he guided me from one photograph to the next. He introduced me to people whose names I recognized from magazine mastheads and museum donor lists. He spoke of my work with such conviction that these influencers looked at me with new interest, as if seeing past my unremarkable exterior to some hidden brilliance. What do you think of the exhibition? He asked, as we stood before a particularly striking image of an abandoned factory. It's technically impressive, I said, studying the perfect contrast, the composition. But there's something missing. What? Soul. I turned to him. It's beautiful, but sterile. Like looking at something perfect but dead. His lips quirked in that almost smile. You prefer imperfection? I prefer authenticity. Flaws make things interesting. Is that why you're here with me? His voice dropped lower. You find my flaws interesting? I met his gaze directly. Are they flaws if you don't see them that way? You don't seem ashamed of what you are. And what am I, Emma? The question hung between us, charged with danger. Before I could answer, a man approached. Tall, expensively dressed, with the confident swagger of someone used to being noticed. Ricci. The man nodded, barely acknowledging me. Unexpected to see you at such a cultural event. Harrington. Luca's posture had changed, almost imperceptibly tensing. Art appreciates in value. Unlike some investments, the subtle barb didn't go unnoticed. Harrington's jaw tightened. Speaking of investments, your offer for the Wharf Street project was rejected. Was it? Luca's voice was mild, but something cold had entered his eyes. Perhaps the board didn't have all the relevant information. The board knows exactly what they're dealing with. Harrington's gaze flicked to me. New toy? I felt rather than saw the change in Luca, a stillness that was somehow more threatening than any movement could have been. Michael. Luca's use of the man's first name sounded like a warning. You should apologize to Ms. Wells. She's an artist. The Morrison is featuring her work this fall. Harrington's expression shifted to reassessment. No offense intended, Ms. Wells. I'm sure your work is charming. The condescension in his tone made my skin crawl, but I forced a smile. None taken. I understand how men like you view women like me. His eyebrows rose at my response. Luca's hand found the small of my back again, his thumb tracing a small circle that felt like approval. If you'll excuse us, Luca said, steering me away. We have more interesting conversations awaiting. As we moved through the crowd, I felt Harrington's eyes boring into my back. Who is that? I asked when we were out of earshot. A complication. Luca's expression had returned to its usual inscrutability, one I'll need to address. What did he mean about the Wharf Street project? A real estate development I'm interested in? Harrington's firm is fighting my bid. He glanced down at me. It's just business. But something in his tone made me think it was more than that. We left the gallery an hour later. Instead of heading back to my apartment, the car took us to the waterfront, stopping at a private dock where a sleek yacht waited, illuminated against the night sky. What is this? I asked as Luca helped me from the car. My temporary home. The brownstone is still being prepared. He offered his arm. I thought we could continue our evening somewhere more private. Every warning bell in my head was ringing, yet I found myself taking his arm, letting him lead me onto the yacht. It was magnificent, all gleaming wood and polished brass, the interior a study in understated luxury. Drink? He moved to a bar area, selecting a bottle without waiting for my response. Luca. I remained standing, arms crossed protectively across my chest. What am I doing here? He paused, crystal tumbler in hand. You tell me. I don't know, and that terrifies me. The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. You're dangerous. What you do is dangerous. I should stay as far away from you as possible, yes. He handed me the drink, his fingers brushing mine. You should. Then why am I here? Because danger isn't always something to be avoided. He moved closer, not touching me, but close enough that I could feel his warmth. Sometimes it's exactly what we need to feel alive. His words resonated with something buried inside me, the part that had always played it safe. Taken the practical path, stayed invisible, the part that was tired of watching other people's special moments, instead of having my own. What do you want from me? I whispered. His hand came up to cup my cheek, his touch surprisingly gentle. Everything you're willing to give. He leaned down, his lips brushing mine. Not quite a kiss, just the suggestion of one, giving me every opportunity to pull away. I didn't. Instead, I closed the distance between us, my free hand finding his chest, feeling his heart beating beneath expensive fabric. The kiss deepened, his arm wrapping around my waist, drawing me against him. Warning bells still rang in my mind, but they were growing fainter, drowned out by the roaring of my pulse and the intoxicating feeling of being wanted, truly wanted, by someone who could have anyone. When we finally broke apart, his eyes had darkened, that perfect control slipping just enough for me to see the desire beneath. Stay, he said, his voice rougher than I'd ever heard it. It wasn't a command. It was a request. And despite everything I knew, or suspected, about Luca Ricci, I knew what my answer would be. Yes, I whispered, the single syllable changing everything between us. His eyes darkened further, and he took the glass from my hand, setting it aside. Then his fingers were in my hair, his mouth claiming mine with a hunger that stole my breath. This wasn't the calculated seduction I'd expected. There was something almost desperate in the way he held me, as if I might disappear if he loosened his grip. I responded with equal fervor, my hands exploring the solid warmth of him beneath his tailored suit. When his lips traveled to my neck, I gasped, clinging to his shoulders to keep myself upright. Emma, he murmured against my skin, my name sounding like both a prayer and a curse in his mouth. We moved toward what I assumed was the master cabin, our progress hampered by our unwillingness to separate, even for a moment. Inside, the space was luxurious, but surprisingly understated. A king-sized bed with crisp white linens, soft lighting that cast everything in a golden glow. Luca paused, his hands on the zipper of my dress. Are you certain? The fact that he asked, this man who took what he wanted, who commanded rather than questioned, made my decision even easier. Yes, I said again, more firmly this time. What followed was a revelation. Behind Luca's controlled exterior burned a passion that consumed us both. His hands and mouth explored my body with reverent attention, discovering places I hadn't known could bring such pleasure. I lost myself in him, in us, forgetting all the reasons this was dangerous, forgetting everything but the way he made me feel, seen, desired, alive. Afterward, I lay in his arms, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat gradually slow. His fingers traced lazy patterns on my bare shoulder, and I felt more content than I could remember being in years. "What are you thinking?" he asked, his voice a low rumble beneath my ear. "That this complicates things," he chuckled. "Life is complicated, Emma. Might as well enjoy the parts that make it worthwhile." I propped myself up on one elbow, studying his face in the dim light. Without his usual mask of control, he looked younger, almost vulnerable, though I suspected that was an illusion. "Tell me something true," I said suddenly. "Something real about you." He was quiet for so long I thought he might not answer. Then, "My father was murdered when I was 12. I watched it happen." The blunt admission shocked me into silence. "It was a power struggle," he continued, his eyes fixed on some point beyond me. "A rival family. They came to our home. My mother hid me in a closet, but there was a slat in the door." His jaw tightened. "I saw everything. Luca." I touched his face, feeling the tension there. "I'm so sorry. It taught me what matters. Power, loyalty, family." His eyes found mine. "Never being vulnerable. Is that why you do what you do?" "I do what I do because it's what I was born to. My father's son. His legacy." Something hardened in his expression, "But I do it better. Smarter. No one will ever make me watch my family die again." The rawness in his voice made my chest ache. I kissed him softly, trying to erase the shadows our conversation had summoned. "Enough truth for tonight," he murmured against my lips, rolling me beneath him. We lost ourselves in each other again, and this time when I fell asleep in his arms, it was deep and dreamless. I woke alone, sunlight streaming through a porthole. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then the events of the night before came rushing back. I sat up, clutching the sheet to my chest, scanning the cabin for signs of Luca. On the bedside table lay a note in elegant handwriting: "Business to attend to. Stay as long as you wish. Marco will take you wherever you need to go. L." Beneath it was a small black box. I opened it with trembling fingers to find a delicate silver necklace with a pendant, a small camera lens crafted in platinum and black diamonds. It was exquisite, tasteful rather than flashy, but undoubtedly expensive. I closed the box without putting it on, suddenly uncomfortable with the implications. Was this payment? A trophy? A mark of ownership? I dressed quickly in last night's clothes, gathering my belongings. The yacht seemed deserted except for Marco, who appeared as I emerged from the cabin. "Mr. Ricci asked me to see you home," he said, his tone as impersonal as ever. "Thank you." I clutched my purse, the small black box burning a hole in it. "I'm ready now." The drive to my apartment was silent. When we arrived, Marco spoke again. "Mr. Ricci would like to know if you're available this evening." I hesitated. Last night had been magical, intoxicating, and terrifying in its intensity. I needed time to think, to process what was happening between us. "I have work to do," I said finally. "For the gallery show. Please tell him I need to focus on that." Marco nodded once, his expression giving nothing away. Inside my apartment, I placed the jewelry box on my coffee table and stared at it. Then I took a long, hot shower, trying to wash away the confusion while holding on to the memory of Luca's touch. For the next week, I threw myself into my photography. I roamed Boston's streets, looking for subjects who revealed that vulnerability Luca and Catherine had identified in my work. I found them everywhere. A businessman with despair in his eyes despite his success. A bride looking trapped rather than joyful. A child with an old soul's wisdom in her gaze. Luca texted daily, short messages, never demanding, just letting me know he was thinking of me. The light on the harbor today reminded me of your eyes. A new gallery opened in the South End. We should visit when you're ready. The necklace would look beautiful on you. I responded politely, but briefly, maintaining the distance I needed. He never pushed, never showed up unannounced, never sent Marco to retrieve me. He was giving me space, and that respect made it harder to remember why I should stay away. 10 days after our night together, I was in my tiny home studio editing photographs when my buzzer rang. It was nearly midnight, too late for deliveries or casual visitors. I approached the intercom warily. "Who is it?" "Emma. It's Luca." His voice sounded strained. "May I come up?" My heart raced. "Is everything okay?" A pause. "No." I buzzed him in without further question, rushing to open my apartment door. When the elevator opened, I gasped. Luca's pristine suit was rumpled, a dark stain spreading across his white shirt, his face pale beneath his tan. "Oh my God!" I rushed to help him inside. "What happened? Should I call an ambulance?" "No hospitals." He leaned against me, wincing. "Just need somewhere safe, just for an hour." I guided him to my couch, helping him sit. "You're bleeding." "It's nothing. A disagreement about business." "This isn't nothing." I carefully helped him remove his jacket and unbutton his shirt. A deep gash ran along his ribs, still seeping blood. "Luca, this needs stitches." "I've had worse." He attempted a smile that turned into a grimace. "Do you have a first aid kit?" I nodded, retrieving it from my bathroom. As I cleaned his wound with shaking hands, questions burned in my throat. Why come to me? Where were his men? What kind of disagreement ended with knives? "I'm sorry to involve you," he said, watching my face. There was no one else nearby that I could trust. The word trust hung in the air between us. He trusted me. This man who trusted no one. "What happened?" I asked, applying antiseptic that made him hiss. Harrington's associates expressed their displeasure about some information that came to light. His voice was tight with pain. They were persuasive in their arguments. "The man from the gallery? He did this to you?" "Not personally. He wouldn't dirty his hands." Luca's eyes hardened. "But he'll answer for it." A chill ran through me at his tone. "What does that mean?" "Nothing you need to concern yourself with." I finished bandaging his side, then sat back on my heels. "If you're involving me by coming here, bleeding all over my couch, then I think I have a right to some answers." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. "The Wharf Street project Harrington mentioned? It's a waterfront development. On paper, luxury condos and retail. In reality, a perfect front for moving certain goods through the port without scrutiny." "Drugs?" My voice was barely a whisper. "Among other things." He shifted, wincing. "Harrington's group wants it for the same reason. I've been blocking them and they've been losing patience." "So they tried to kill you?" A warning, not an assassination attempt. His mouth curved in a grim smile. "If they wanted me dead, we wouldn't be having this conversation." I stood abruptly, pacing my small living room. "This is insane. You're talking about criminal conspiracies and stab wounds like they're normal business challenges. In my world, they are." "Well, it's not my world." The words burst out louder than I intended. "I'm a photographer, Luca. I take pictures of weddings and street scenes. I don't hide wounded mobsters from their enemies." And yet, he gestured to the bloodied gauze, the first aid kit. "Here we are." I stopped pacing, the full reality of the situation crashing over me. By helping him, by letting him into my home, I'd crossed a line. I was involved now, whether I wanted to be or not. "Why me?" I asked, my voice small. "You must have safe houses, loyal soldiers, actual criminals who could help you." His eyes softened. "Because with you, I'm just Luca. Not a Ricci, not a boss, not a legacy, just a man." The simplicity of his answer undid me. I sat beside him on the couch, careful not to jostle his injury. "I'm afraid," I admitted, "of what this means, of what you do, of how I feel about you despite it all." He took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "Fear keeps us alive, Emma, but it shouldn't keep us from living." We sat in silence, his words settling between us like stones in still water. Finally, he checked his watch. I should go. I've compromised you enough for one night. You can't leave like this. You're hurt. Marco is waiting 2 blocks away. I'll be fine. As he stood, grimacing with the effort, I made a decision I knew might change everything. The necklace, I said. I'll wear it. His eyes found mine, understanding the significance of my words. You're sure? I nodded. I'm not saying I'm part of your world. I'm saying I want to see where this goes, with eyes open. He cupped my face with one hand. Eyes open, he agreed, kissing me softly. After he left, I took the black box from where it had sat untouched for days. I opened it, removing the necklace, and fastened it around my throat. The pendant rested just above my heart, cool against my skin. In the mirror, I looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted. I was now a woman who had chosen to walk into danger with open eyes, a woman wearing a gift from a man whose business was conducted in shadows and blood. I wondered if my camera would capture that change, the vulnerability now mixed with something darker, more complex. I wondered if Catherine would see it in my new photographs, if gallery goers would sense it without knowing its source. I wondered if I was making the biggest mistake of my life, or finally starting to live it. The weeks that followed existed in a strange duality. By day, I was Emma Wells, photographer, preparing for my first major gallery showing. I visited the Morrison Gallery, discussed framing options with Catherine, selected final pieces from hundreds of new photographs. By night, I was someone else entirely, the woman on Luca Ricci's arm at exclusive restaurants and private clubs, wearing dresses I could never have afforded before, the delicate camera pendant always at my throat. I learned to recognize the subtle indicators of his world, the respectful nods from certain men, the way conversations hushed when we entered a room, how doors opened and reservations materialized without question. Luca never discussed business with me, maintaining a careful separation between his professional life and our relationship. But occasionally, I glimpsed beneath the surface, a tense phone call in Italian, a meeting with hard-faced men that ended when I approached, the gun I accidentally discovered in his bedside drawer one morning. I told myself I could live with the not knowing, that the man who held me at night, who looked at my photographs with genuine appreciation, who listened to my stories with undivided attention, that man was separate from whatever happened in those shadows. It was a beautiful lie, but still a lie. The truth found me exactly 1 month after Luca appeared at my door bleeding. I was in my studio, mounting photographs for the exhibition, when my phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Is this Emma Wells? A woman's voice, unfamiliar, with the crisp tone of authority. Yes, who's calling? Detective Lisa Morales, Boston PD. I'd like to ask you some questions about Luca Ricci. My blood turned to ice. What about him? I think this conversation would be better in person, Ms. Wells. I can come to you, or you can come to the station. Your choice. Neither option seemed good. What is this regarding exactly? A pause. Mr. Ricci is a person of interest in an ongoing investigation. We believe you may have information relevant to our case. My mind raced. What did they know? What did they think I knew? I can come to you, I said finally. My studio felt suddenly vulnerable, filled with pieces of my life I didn't want examined by police eyes. Detective Morales gave me an address. Not the police station, but a coffee shop near the waterfront. 3 o'clock, she said. Come alone. I hung up and immediately called Luca. No answer. I texted, police detective wants to meet. Asking about you. What should I do? No response. This wasn't like him. He always answered my calls or texts, even when he was busy. At 2:55, I entered the coffee shop, scanning for someone who looked like a detective. A woman in a charcoal pantsuit raised her hand from a corner table. She was perhaps 40, with short dark hair and watchful eyes that seemed to catalog every detail about me as I approached. Ms. Wells, thank you for coming. She didn't offer to shake hands. Coffee? No, thank you. I sat across from her, my bag clutched in my lap. What's this about? She studied me, her expression neutral. How long have you been involved with Luca Ricci? Define involved. A slight smile. Sleeping with him, accepting his gifts, appearing at his side at social functions. I bristled at her tone. My personal relationships aren't police business. They are when your boyfriend is under investigation for racketeering, money laundering, and most recently, attempted murder. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. Murder? That's absurd. Is it? She slid a tablet across the table. This was taken 3 nights ago. I looked at the screen. Security camera footage showed a parking garage. Timestamp 2:17 a.m. A figure in a dark coat approached a parked car. Even with the grainy quality, I recognized Luca's distinctive walk, the set of his shoulders. He reached inside his coat, withdrew something. Then the video cut out. What happened? Where's the rest? The camera was disabled, professionally. Detective Morales took back the tablet. 30 seconds later, Michael Harrington was found in that car with 2 bullets in his chest. He's in critical condition. Harrington. The man from the gallery. The one whose associates had stabbed Luca. This doesn't prove anything, I said. But my voice lacked conviction. Maybe not to a jury. Not yet. She leaned forward. But you and I both know what we saw. And I think you know exactly who and what Luca Ricci is. I remained silent, my thoughts tumbling over each other. I'm not here to arrest you, Ms. Wells. I'm here to warn you. Her voice softened slightly. Women in your position, romantically involved with men like Ricci, they end up in one of 2 places, prison or the morgue. You don't know anything about my relationship. I know he's using you. She held up a hand as I started to protest. Maybe he cares for you too. I'll grant that possibility. But you're also useful to him. A beautiful, talented woman with a legitimate career. No criminal record. No family connections to organized crime. You provide perfect cover, a step into legitimate society. Her words cut, because they echoed doubts I'd been suppressing for weeks. Why had Luca pursued me so intently? What had he really seen when he looked at me through my camera lens that first day? What do you want from me? I asked. Information. Testimony eventually. Help us build a case against him. You're asking me to betray him. I'm offering you a way out before you're in too deep. She slid a business card across the table. Think about it. And in the meantime, be careful what you say to him. Men like Ricci don't tolerate betrayal, even from women they claim to love. I took the card automatically, slipping it into my pocket. Are we done? For now. She stood. One more thing, Ms. Wells. Your gallery opening at the Morrison next week. Quite a coup for an unknown photographer. Did you ever wonder how that happened so quickly? She walked away before I could respond, leaving me with a question that poisoned everything I'd achieved in the past month. I wandered the waterfront afterward, trying to process what I'd learned, what I'd always known, but refused to acknowledge. The sky darkened, matching my thoughts, and a light rain began to fall. Still no response from Luca. Finally, I made a decision. I hailed a taxi and gave the driver the address of Luca's brownstone. A place I'd visited many times now, but never alone. Always with him or Marco escorting me. The house was dark when I arrived. I rang the bell anyway. Then again when there was no answer. I was turning to leave when the door opened. It wasn't Luca or Marco, but the older man I'd met that first day. The one Luca had called Marco's overactive imagination. Ms. Wells. He seemed unsurprised to see me. Mr. Ricci isn't here. Where is he? The man hesitated. Attending to business. He left instructions not to be disturbed. It's important, I insisted. The police came to see me today. About him. Something shifted in the man's expression. Come inside. He led me to Luca's study, a room of dark wood and leather, walls lined with books I suspected had been selected for appearance rather than content. A large desk dominated the space, its surface bare except for a laptop and a single framed photograph, the one of Luca and his mother, the only personal item he seemed to value. Wait here, the man said. I'll try to reach him. I nodded, and he left, closing the door behind him. I moved to the window, watching rain streak the glass, distorting the view of Beacon Hill's elegant streets. A sound from the desk caught my attention. A phone vibrating. Not Luca's personal phone, which I recognized, but another one, sleeker, unmarked. The screen showed a text in Italian. I shouldn't look. I knew I shouldn't. But Detective Morales' words echoed in my mind. I crossed to the desk, picked up the phone. The message was still visible on the lock screen. Harrington Mordo. Problema risolto. My rudimentary Italian was enough. Harrington dead. Problem solved. The phone slipped from my fingers, clattering to the desk. I backed away, bumping into a bookshelf, sending a leather-bound volume tumbling to the floor. It fell open, revealing it wasn't a book at all, but a hollowed-out hiding place containing a passport. Not in Luca's name, but with his photograph. The door opened. I spun around, expecting the older man, but it was Luca himself, impeccably dressed, not a hair out of place, looking as though he'd just come from a business meeting rather than, what? A hospital? A morgue? Emma. His voice betrayed nothing. This is unexpected. I could only stare at him, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not the charming man who'd seduced me, but the one from the security footage. The one who solved problems permanently. You killed him, I whispered. He closed the door quietly. Who told you that? No one had to tell me. I gestured to the phone on the desk. It's right there. Harrington Mordo. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise perhaps that I understood Italian, or that I'd looked at his messages. Either way, a boundary had been crossed. You shouldn't be here, he said, his voice gentle despite everything. Not tonight. The police came to see me. The words tumbled out. They know it was you. They have footage. Is that why you came? To warn me? He moved closer, studying my face. Or to confirm your suspicions? I don't know. It was the most honest thing I could say. Maybe both. And now that you have your confirmation, his voice remained soft, reasonable. What will you do with it? I backed away until I hit the desk. Luca, I can't be part of this. Whatever this is. You already are. He stopped, maintaining a careful distance between us. The moment you accepted my help with the gallery, the moment you took that necklace, the moment you let me into your bed, into your life, I reached up, touching the pendant at my throat. Was any of it real? Or was I just convenient? Cover, like Detective Morales said. Something darkened in his expression. She said that to you? She offered me a deal. Information about you in exchange for immunity. And what did you tell her? Nothing. Yet, my hand fell from the necklace. But she's right, isn't she? About why you chose me. A legitimate front. Someone with no connections to your world. He was silent for a long moment. That's how it started, he admitted finally. When I saw you through your camera lens, I saw someone who could be useful. Someone who moved between worlds without being noticed. Who captured vulnerability without being vulnerable herself. The confirmation hurt more than I expected. But then I got to know you. He moved closer. And this time I didn't back away. Your passion for your art, your determination, the way you see beauty in broken things. His hand came up to touch my cheek. I didn't plan to care for you, Emma. That was never part of the calculation. I wanted to believe him. More than anything, I wanted his words to be true. You killed a man tonight, I said, my voice breaking. How am I supposed to reconcile that with the person I thought I knew? You don't. His thumb traced my lower lip. You accept all of me, or none of me. There is no middle ground in my world. I can't. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I'm sorry, but I can't. Something like grief passed across his face, quickly masked. He stepped back, creating distance between us. Then we've reached an impasse. His voice had cooled, reverting to the controlled tone I'd first heard at the hotel bar. What happens next is your choice, Emma. But before you make it, remember, you're wearing my mark. He nodded toward the necklace. In my world, that means protection. Without it. The threat wasn't spoken, but it hung in the air between us. If I turned on him, cooperated with the police, I'd lose his protection. In a city where he controlled so much, where his influence reached so far, what would that mean? I would never hurt you. He seemed to read my thoughts, but I have enemies. Harrington had friends. I touched the necklace again, feeling its weight anew. A gift, a chain, a shield, all at once. I need time, I said finally. Space to think. He nodded once. The gallery opening is in 5 days. I'll stay away until then. Give you the space you need." He moved to the desk, picking up the fallen passport and replacing it in its hiding place. "Whatever you decide, I'll honor it." "Even if I go to the police?" His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw genuine pain there, even then. "But I hope you won't." I left without another word, the rain soaking me as I walked away from his house, away from the man I'd fallen for despite knowing better. The camera pendant felt heavy against my skin, a physical reminder of choices made and choices yet to come. For 5 days I existed in limbo. I didn't call Detective Morales, I didn't contact Luca, I focused solely on my exhibition, channeling all my confusion and heartache into my art. The photographs took on new meaning, each image of vulnerability now tinged with danger, each moment of exposure balanced on the knife edge between intimacy and betrayal. On opening night, the Morrison Gallery was packed with Boston's elite. Catherine had marketed the exhibition aggressively, and critics from major publications mingled with potential buyers and curious art lovers. My name was on everyone's lips, my photographs drawing gasps of appreciation and thoughtful contemplation. I should have been ecstatic. Instead, I moved through the crowd like a ghost, smiling mechanically, answering questions on autopilot, all while my eyes darted to the entrance each time the door opened. An hour into the event, just as I was beginning to think he wouldn't come, the crowd parted. Luca stood in the doorway, alone, more casually dressed than I'd ever seen him in public. Dark jeans, a simple button-down shirt, no tie. He looked younger, more approachable, almost vulnerable himself. Our eyes met across the gallery. He made no move to approach me, giving me the choice I'd asked for. In that moment, looking at him, I understood that some decisions aren't made in the mind, but in the heart. Logic, morality, self-preservation, they all argued for one path. But my feet were already moving toward him, drawn by something deeper than reason. He watched me approach, his expression guarded until I reached him. I took his hand, lacing my fingers through his. "Your exhibition is remarkable," he said quietly. "You've captured something true." "Yes." I looked up at him. "Truth is complicated. And your decision?" I touched the camera pendant at my throat, the symbol of everything he offered and everything it would cost. "I choose you," I said simply. "All of you." Eyes open. He drew me closer, his forehead resting against mine. "You understand what that means?" "I'm starting to." I took a deep breath. "But we need rules. Lines I won't cross. We'll define them together." His lips brushed my temple. I never expected to find someone who could see all of me and stay. Neither did I. I squeezed his hand. But here we are. Around us, the gallery hummed with admirers studying my photographs, images of vulnerability captured by a woman who had chosen, for better or worse, to embrace her own. The camera pendant caught the light as I turned to introduce Luca to Catherine, glinting like a promise or a warning, perhaps both at once. I had walked into danger with open eyes, and found at its heart a love as complex and dangerous as the man himself.